Okay, I just want to share with you, today we're going to talk a little bit about the ad manager or business.facebook.com. We're going to dive into more detail, especially when it comes to Creative Hub. But last week on our Friday call, I know we're transitioning, so some of you probably can't make it this morning, so you can go back and listen to the replay. But right now, bring it in a little bit tighter. We're talking about Creative Hub. Last week we talked about audience insights. We went through what those look like, why you would utilize a lookalike audience, a website audience, as well as an email list to really expand. But today we're going to talk about the Creative Hub, what that looks like, how that works. So I'm just going to get set up over here. I'm sharing my screen on my computer. And Mitch, what's up, Nick? Mitch and Brad and I are just going to dialogue around the Creative Hub. And the topic of today is, how do you create the perfect ad? I think if anybody had the actual answer to that, I think we would all be making millions and millions of dollars, right?
There's a lot of different strategies out there on how to create the perfect ad.
That's right. We can show you some ideas of how to do it, and then we can give you some insights on why we do what we do, and give you a lot more understanding of why we're positioning some of the content the way that we are on our ads. So, good to be with you. Let's dive right in. So, Mitch, why don't you dive in and talk to us a little bit about this Creative Hub, what it is, and as a matter of fact, do you want me to share? Do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to just do it on my screen?
Yeah, we can switch over to my screen so I can talk and click at the same time.
Say that again.
Yeah, we can switch over to my screen so I can talk and click at the same time.
Okay, go ahead. You got it.
Let me switch over. So the Creative Hub is something new. I don't know exactly when Facebook launched it, but it's something new and something that will be very beneficial to basically preview your ads. And so here's how you get to it. We're in Ads Manager. You come up here to the top left and then go to All Tools. You just have to hover over All Tools and then Creative Hub. You know, a lot of people, as they're getting started in Facebook ads, they don't know what a Facebook ad looks like. I don't know how often you, Ryan, talk to a client or just anybody and they say, well, what does a Facebook ad look like? But that happens to me all the time. And so if you're just getting started, this is a great way to show yourself what a Facebook ad is going to look like. So on this main page, they have a lot of examples and different stuff. But what we can do is come up here to the top right and say create mockup. And the first question you're going to have to ask yourself is, okay, am I going to make an ad on Facebook or on Instagram? And then we're going to say Facebook today. Is it going to be an image, video, 360 video, website link, carousel, or canvas? Let's say today we're going to do a website link. So you click on that, and this is going to be the type of ad where people can click over to your website. And so what you can do now is just kind of set this stuff up one step at a time. So we can name the page. So today, let's just do our own page. We call it Strategic Social Partners, and then just pick a profile picture. I'm not going to pick our actual profile picture for sake of time, so I'm just going to put one in there. But I would recommend putting your actual profile picture in there so it shows up exactly how it would. And then the text. Ryan, maybe this would be a good time where we talk about the ad copy that we would write at the same time we're writing it in the preview.
Yeah, that's a great time to talk about it. You know, what's interesting about ad copy, and Brad, you can dive in and talk about this as well with us, but what's interesting about ad copy is there's so many different types of approaches, and it really depends on the audience you're trying to capitalize on. You know, last time, what's unique about the layout of Facebook is there's a process. Talking about audience, you know, one of the first things you have to do is identify who your audience is and who you're really trying to get your information in front of. And then you start with the creative. So content, the ad content itself can be developed in a lot of different ways. Maybe you have a sales copywriter that can do things for you. maybe you're good at sales copy yourself and you can write the questions and the answers and the text here. Maybe you want to use software programs. There's a company or a website called Fiverr.com. They can put together some ad copy for you for relatively inexpensive. A good solid ad copy writer is worth their weight in gold. They can really attract an audience to you. So the number one thing you have to do is identify who your target demographic is. And your target might be cold market, right? You might be sitting there in front of a cold market audience and trying to relate a message to people in a cold market audience. So you're going to have a different approach to someone in a cold market as you would in a warm market, and a different approach with a warm market as you would a hot market contact. And this, we can kind of talk here for just a quick minute about what we call sequential ads. And sequential ads is basically, okay, so if I'm going to start and put together this ad set right here and put together the perfect ad copy, what should it look like? What's the strategy? And then if I'm taking someone down this user experience, what will that next ad look like? So they see one ad and then they go to the next. So let's dive in, Mitch and Brad, and if you guys want to put some insight in here. I know first and foremost, whenever we look at ad copy, whenever I look at ad copy myself, and I see a lot of it on Facebook, the number one thing that I pay attention to, it's something that piques my interest right away, usually in the form of a question.
Yeah.
Brad,
so let's
it's on that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think I'm a pretty good person to speak to about copy, just because I don't feel that I'm a super good copywriter. And so for the audience, for those of you watching, maybe you feel the same way. And I think what helps me a lot is every time I write copy, I just have to remember that I'm writing it for people, because we can get lost in this process and start writing to Facebook or writing this, who knows who we're addressing. But if we remember who that audience is, like Ryan mentioned, and kind of reverse engineer the copy and remember that audience isn't just a group of people that are random, but there's your core person who you want to if you take that audience and put it to one individual and make it conversational, I think that helps me the most. Especially in a Facebook setting. I mean, it's social media, right? You're trying to create, people are on social media to converse and to talk back and forth with one another. So that can help frame how we approach copy altogether.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a very good point, Brad, because I think one thing we need to recognize, especially when you talk about reverse engineering the process, is that we have to understand that we're not in a push marketing platform here. So we're not trying to just get all the information as fast as we can in front of people. The idea is we create engagement. We create a platform where people want to pay attention to what we're doing. And as we do that, like Brad, like you were saying, and write the copy in a way that makes an authentic connection with people, that changes everything. And so think about this. Think about the first time you meet someone, especially we're talking the cold market here. So you're basically putting your information about your business or this specific ad copy in front of your person for the very first time. So how would you approach someone that you're meeting at a coffee shop for the first time? Would you go in and just start doing your 60-second commercial? Or would you sit down and ask questions to learn a little bit about them, to recognize that they see the value in who you are and what you represent, versus pushing your information at them all day long? And that's really what you need to think about when you're writing copy. First and foremost, what is the main need, main concern of those people I'm trying to get my ad set in front of? And can I start it with a question? Does it make sense to start with the question? Sometimes, like for instance, we run a lot of ad sets that attract people to our Facebook ad course. And one of the questions we ask is, have you been struggling to get your ads to convert? And that might be a first initial question. Have you run any Facebook ads before? Are you looking to generate more leads and sales for your business by utilizing Facebook ads? I mean, that might even be too complex. But yeah, first question is, have you been struggling to get your ads to convert? So that might be the very first thing. So start with a question, and then think about this again in a conversational perspective of, okay, I've asked the question now, what do we do next? What does that dialogue look like next when I'm sitting down and chatting with someone? So Mitch, you want to give us a little more insights on that?
Yeah, I think in this example of where this is a cold market, where we're talking to the people that either want to run Facebook ads or have already started, then we can tell a little bit of a backstory and just and make it conversational, as you guys have talked about, and say, boy, oh boy, and say, did we used to struggle with this too?
Yeah.
And just start that becoming relatable.
Yeah, and I think this, like, the direction you're headed is right on par with something I read just the other day from a guy that I know. He's a really good copywriter. And he says, let me just read from something that he said. He said, one way to resonate with your readers to show them where you've been, where you are now, and what you've experienced and what that experience taught you. So bring them through the journey from beginning to end. And then he gives an example. He says, as I drive to the marketer's mansion and see all the poverty in the surrounding areas, I remember when I was struggling for food and telling people I lost weight simply because I was on a better diet. The truth is, I was hungry for food and hungry for success. Now, as I drive to this mastermind, I realize that the number one secret I've discovered on my journey is the power of consistency. So he's taking someone from the beginning to the end while telling a story and addressing, the audience at the same time. So that's just a quick idea from someone that I follow. And that's a good strategy for you. Find a couple of copywriters and follow them, see what they're saying and learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's interesting about that, Brad, is I know a lot of times when I see Facebook ads across my news feed, I often recognize people that understand Facebook advertising and people that don't. And I'm being a little bit loose in saying that, but you can tell people that really understand Facebook advertising by the way they position the ad copy. And not only the story that's told or associated with it, but there's an underlying strategy to expand organic reach. And that's done by putting small sentences of text consistently throughout the ad content so that a little see more button shows up on your actual ad copy. Because once someone clicks on that see more portion of your ad, that triggers organic reach and expands the people that you're getting your information in front of, because it tells Facebook, hey, listen, this information is relevant to someone, and they clicked on see more because they wanted to read the rest of the copy. So I see oftentimes people just put one big long paragraph and the characters aren't long enough to get into that see more section. And because of that, they're mitigating or minimizing the amount of reach they potentially could capture if they created proper spacing. In addition, we're a generation in a world right now, especially on social, of people that don't take the time really to read long copy. I mean, long paragraphs. If you can get it to them in 10 one-line sentences versus one 10-sentence paragraph, they're going to be a lot more intrigued with what you're doing and how you're doing it. So first, understand the demographic. Second, create that conversation. Write it as if you're speaking with someone face-to-face. And I would even include, like Brad said, and like Mitch typed in here, an element of empathy. Right? Create that emotional connection based on empathetically connecting with these people or anyone because of where they are in their life right now, what they're trying to accomplish. Idealistically, we as marketers or you as a business, you pretty much have a good understanding and idea of what the needs are of those people that are potentially connected to you. Don't tell them what they need, however. Create a relationship of trust by establishing a need framework, utilizing the text inside of the ad copy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we start here, question. The next segment is some emotional connection or some limitation, like Brad said, where we have been. So what else could we potentially throw into this ad copy to place where we have been?
I think next we should go, like Brad talked about, take them through the journey that we've gone through. But then we've spent a lot of time and money practicing.
Yeah.
And getting better.
And I might even add I might even add a line in there right after that that just says, one thing that we learned in the process is by following, like Brad said, by following the right people and understanding the right framework behind what they're doing can simplify the process dramatically. Right? It's things that we learn, part of the journey.
Yeah, and also being vulnerable and just saying, and like, look, we didn't always get it right, but we spent, X number of dollars on Facebook ads, or we did X, Y, and Z to get on this other side, and now we figured it out. So you can kind of show some vulnerability and show that, look, we're not perfect, but then you take that and you can show them that, but we've spent $500,000 on Facebook ads, so now we know. And
as a matter of fact, Brad, you bring up a good point, because I just got an email today from a guy by the name of Nathan Latka, and he said said something like, oh no, it's Frank Kern. Frank Kern, who's like the master of all of this, all the digital space, in my opinion. And I often see him say, I think there was an email the other day that said the $375,000 mistake was the title of the email. Yeah. And so it's like, it piques your interest, and it's like, wait a minute, what happened and why and how, and now you have my interest. And then he goes in to tell that story, and he does a very good job in his copy on his emails of really telling the story. And it's the same thing here. It's the same thing here to attract people's attention. Mitch, I like what you put there, the 15,373 to be exact. It's nice to see, how much money's been spent, or how much money can be spent, or it gives a specific number, like I spent this much money. It does one of two things. Now, if we had $153,000, it increases credibility. So you have to be careful when you're writing your ad copy that you don't undersell yourself. But there's probably not a ton of people out there in the ad world right now that have also utilized $15,000, $16,000 in ad dollars to generate revenue.
Yeah, and I don't know if that is exact. Just to be clear for everybody that's listening, I don't know what the exact number is. We're estimating that it's somewhere around there in our specific case. Anyway,
and this might be clear. This might be one client that we've utilized, and we've spent that much in ads in just one of our clients. So anyway, so you put some number in there, build some value. It's great from an experiential perspective. Okay, and then the one thing we've learned is that it helps to start by following those who have experience. Yeah. And you could even say something like, it streamlines the process. It simplifies the game so that you don't have to be questioning whether whether what you're doing is working or not.
Yeah. And one thing to note is that, and we know this from experience, right after this paragraph right here, this one thing we learned is that it helps to start by following those with experience. Dash makes success faster. This is where that ... see more is going to show up on desktop.
Right.
We're gonna get to see next if it shows it on this preview, but you can kind of figure about 3 short paragraphs is where it's going to be.
Yep. Now that doesn't. We're not saying that all you write is 3 short paragraphs. We're showing you that that's typically where the see more element comes into play.
But we always want to kind of leave a little bit of a cliffhanger right before that see more.
Yes.
But we can't add too much there, because then that whole paragraph would jump below. If you make this 3rd paragraph too long, the whole paragraph drops below the see more link.
Yep. So then typically you want to try to teach a principle in the ad copy as well. So one thing we learned is this, and then we talk about the now, where we are now.
Let's see. Since we also are making this up on the fly for everybody that's watching. And though it takes a couple tries, it's good that we have 3 of us on here. We can all add our input and get it right. You don't get it right your first try.
Right.
Let's see. So since we've started, we went from losing campaigns, having a bigger return on investment than and all of our traditional marketing friends.
Yeah, you could even throw something in there. Mitch said we've helped a client take $1,000 in ad spend and turn it into $95,000 in revenue, which we have.
Yeah, let's use that. So we went from having losing campaigns to helping our clients spend
$1,000 in Facebook ads.
And turn it into, maybe we're thinking of a different one.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You've got quite a few, but this is any of them work really well. So
Yeah. Helping our clients spend $3,000 on ads and turn it into $90,000 of revenue. And then we can add in another little element right here to make it more relatable again. I don't know about you, but I would do that all day.
Yep.
And then, there is a case for really long ad copy. That's something that you need to test. Sometimes short and punchy is what you need to get the point across. Sometimes longer, more like blog post style, 1,000 word, like article style posts are going to work better. So you just need to test those things. But right here, you also got to start thinking about, now after the click, what's the goal, right? What's the offer that you're taking them to? And so you need to, that's part of that reverse engineering process. What's the offer on my website that I want them to be interested in? And so this is where you can start to really refine that and lead them to that ultimate solution.
Yep, that's exactly right. So in this case, we're talking about the Facebook ads course, for instance. So how would we position, Brad? What would be your recommendation for positioning the ads course?
Yeah, I think a really good way to position a course is, showing the different paths you can take. Now, look, you can go and spend X number of dollars like we did and work through trial and error, or you can get on the fast track to success, and maybe you throw in some quote from some successful person saying that the quickest way to get from point A to point B is to follow someone who's already been down that path, something like that. And then, telling them that's exactly what we're offering. Come along for the journey. Look over my shoulder as I show you how we set up these ads and run these ads profitably for all of our clients. Something like that.
That's right.
Guys, we should use this ad copy.
Yeah.
It's coming together nicely.
As a matter of fact, we will. Let's use this ad copy, put it together, run some ads against it, and then we can return a report next week on how it performed.
I like that. So come and look over our shoulders after the 15,000 has been spent, and let's see, skip over,
and we'll teach you, we'll teach you how to streamline, how to save time and energy and money. Save time, energy, and money.
Oh, save time, energy, and money.
Yep, and then you also go back to who you're speaking to. Remember who we're talking to. So if this course is for a small business owner, and then we can talk specifically about the impact that'll have on their bottom line. Sure. Looking at coming to the end of the year, if you want to have the best year ever or something like that, then Facebook ads is definitely the way to go. And this is, stuff like that. If you're talking to digital, an employee at a company that's in a digital marketing position, then you'd say something like, we want to make you look like a rock star at your company so that you can go to your boss and your direct reports and show them, the impact that you're bringing. to the bottom line of that business as well.
Yeah, and what's great about this is we know the needs potentially of our target demographic as well, right? Because we're saying here, listen, you can proceed in one of two ways. Here's one or two ways. But we're also recognizing to the small business owner, which is where we target our Facebook ads course, that they don't have time, energy, and money to learn this stuff on their own.
Yep, and that's a good point, because if you've done this right, if you started with who's the audience and you really got clear on who that is, then when you get to this part, it's going to make it that much easier for you.
Yep. Okay,
so that last paragraph. Now, if you want to have the best year ever in your business, I'd recommend going with option 2. You'll get a return on investment much quicker.
Sure. Yep. And for the sake of this, we can add more ad copy to it. But for the sake of this, I think that's pretty good. We have about 4 minutes here, so let's dive in. Let's dive in and show the rest of the elements of it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll wrap this up real quick. Register now for a free training. And so after this, then, what's that?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, now after this, then we probably will go back through and read this again in its entirety, because we put this together one step at a time. That's one thing you want to do, is you want to read it a few times. So now to make the rest of your ad, then for the preview, then you're going to select an image.
This is another one where we could spend probably a whole call on, talking just about image assets and testing and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
We probably should next week talk a little bit more about the images and why we used the image that we did.
Why don't we do that? And so for now, just to show what it'll look like, let's just put something in there.
Let's go down a little bit. There was that one that one of those is fine.
You want a basic principle of an image, and we'll dive into this more next week, is you want to get it to be a stopper. So then put your website URL in here. A word from experience, when you're actually creating your ad, I would recommend typing it into a URL bar and copying and paste, because we have run ads before. We've started ads where the link did not work. We've learned the hard way, and now I test every time. I test the ad to make sure it actually goes to the landing page. Now this headline, we're looking at where it currently says social media consulting. This is going to be something that is also very important. One strategy, and I think this is a good strategy in this case, is putting a question here, because often this is bolder and bigger letters, and so people often start here. And so we can start with the same question here. Have you been with your Facebook ads to convert? There's kind of two main strategies that I see here. You either start with a question, or you state something that's very, very intriguing. Like, what's an example? That example that you guys shared from Frank Kern, the $375,000 mistake. If he made an ad out of that, I would guess that he would put that in this headline.
Yeah.
And then this newsfeed link description, I'm going to say this is probably the least important part of the ad, because it doesn't get read as much, but you still need to fill it out. I'm learning from our experience of spending over $15,000 Facebook ads to drastically speed up your learning curve and return on investment.
Great.
Click to learn more now. And then the last element here is you can pick a call to action button. You have all of these choices, and oftentimes we will use learn more. because in this case, they are going to learn more about what is this training, what is the webinar, what's the blog post about, or whatever. And so,
yeah, and I've heard too, even from the guys at Digital Marketer, they've said that, oftentimes they don't even put a button, and that's just one of the things that they've tested, and a lot of times it converts better. So test with all this stuff.
And I think that's the number one thing you need to recognize, is that there is a lot of testing that goes into the process to really keep you engaged. But it's not as simple as just clicking on a button and putting together an ad and sending the ad. So, and what's great about using the mock-up or the Creative Hubs section is you can go create the whole ad set. You can do your image text check. You can get inspired, get some ideas for different ways of positioning it, or you can just save the mock-up and send it to your client or to someone inside of your business for review prior to actually finalizing the ad copy for your client. And then they can give you insights. And instead of going in and out of the ads manager, this is a great place to really create that content and share it with people that are part of your circle of influence. So anyway, listen, guys, it's 10:30. Glad that you were with us. I know you may have some questions. If you do have questions, don't hesitate to jump into our SS or our either on our Strategic Social Partners business page, or you can come join us inside of our Social Entrepreneurs Academy and dive in and engage in there. You can ask questions inside of there. We'll be posting this webinar as well as the replay inside of there as well, and we'll be sending out an email so you have access to it as well. So appreciate your time, Mitch. Brad, any last thoughts, insights?
Yeah, if we don't have any questions, stay tuned. We'll be following up with this ad and all the other strategies that follow. So,
all right. Thanks, guys, for being with us, and we'll be back again very soon.